best place to start is just by you two both addressing how you got together to make this film. What is there? Is there an origin story that you can enlighten us on, both in terms of meeting and in terms of this film?
Well, you were there in Greece.
I was there, yeah.
When it all began.
I don't know all the answers to the questions, but...
Willem has some very funny reflection on what happens when he runs into Argentines around the world. I was one of them in Oxbelly, 2019. Shall you? No, please.
You're good. No, we met at a what
Oxbelly.
Oxbelly, which is a conference in
it's a writing workshop. It was in Greece. In Greece.
And I liked how I just liked Gaston's sensibility when he talked about some of the movies we were watching and some of the screenplays we were. It was like a mentor program. And I was drawn to him. I liked how he spoke about things. I liked how he saw things, a poetic sensibility. So we became friends, and then I watched his movies. And they aren't really features. I guess they're features, but they're quite short, and they're very poetic, not very narrative. And I thought, this guy really makes beautiful movies. And then he spoke to me and he said that he'd like to make a feature and we should do it together. He had a real wacky idea first that I didn't really respond to. Do you remember that motorcycle thing?
Motorcycle?
It was a crazy futuristic motorcycle thing.
You're confusing me with another curly hair guy.
Another Gaston. And then you take it from there.
This film is a miracle. I mean, Willem is, as I said before, I'm still in awe at his hunger to still keep. I'm often asked how I convince him to do it or so, and I think we all have sort of a curious idea of how certain things are done, and you would not believe how this film was done. In a very, all the films I made in Vienna were made in very different and quite complex circumstances. But I really think Willem, I could never understand for years. I was really trying to offer scripts and narrative ideas, or so I thought. And somehow Willem insisted that, my films are about something else. They are made without a script. They're written rather in the editorial stage. It's often I learned that I gather much more interest in the things I find in the process of making a film rather than the illustration or, hypotheses or preconceived ideas. Of course, this has a lot of limitations, and definitely it's harder and harder in a way. And of course, in this film, it's also made in a very different way because it's more professional. So I thought this film would be closer for years. I thought it was with Willem, it would be closer to the kind of film he makes. But then he insisted it's the film I make with non-actors, and he wanted me to be in it. And then in the end, the film sort of landed in the middle, which I found to be a very dangerous but also very fertile zone because it's a very indefined. And in the end, even though it was a very difficult moment a year ago when we were trying to put this film together, trying to figure out, Willem likes this quote, so I will offer them to you. This Jonas Mekas idea on improvisation as the highest form of concentration. Improvisation, at least in Argentina, has a bad publicity as something badly done. I truly believe that, as he says, it's not like a trick or a technique, but rather a way of being, a way of living. A cousin of mine once told me, he saw me cooking, he thought I, at the same time, controlled every gesture and also had no idea what I was doing. And I thought it was a compliment, but perhaps he was criticizing me. And, so with Willem, one thing led to the other, and a year ago we were filming, and here we are.
As you mentioned, you said you saw Gaston's other films, so you had an idea of what was there. Were you at all worried about entering this sort of obsessive world of his? Because, if people have seen the other films, in this film you have classical music, you have chess, you have cooking, you have this, hotel in Vienna, we can get that later, but you're basically entering his space, right?
Yeah, but, as an actor, you like to enter a world and have it make you learn something and have something in your head shift. I think that's it. And I didn't expect I look at the whole thing. I look at the whole package, and it's led by him. When I'm watching it now, there's things that, I was trying to think, what am I drawn to? You know, something as simple as those students walking out with the chairs is very evocative to me. It doesn't really fit into a story point or anything like that, but it has a texture. It speaks to me. And he's very good at finding these moments that are rooted in something. They aren't ideas. They aren't invented. He deals with what's around him. And, any kind of film, narrative, non-narrative, as a performer, you like to enter a world, and the world tells you what to do. And I'm really struck by that over and over again. One of the problems with movies sometimes, to my mind, is people have an idea, they get to the place, and it doesn't really fit in. They're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. That never happens with him. Whatever he does, it has a flow to it. It may not land, but it has a kind of truth and a kind of texture that I like. So
I have other problems.
What?
I have other problems.
Beautiful problems. Problems are where we have the best times, I think, sometimes.
I still believe very much, no matter how hard it can be in this way of production, that the films really represent the emotions from which they're made. And often when I'm lost, once in the previous film, a friend quoted John Cage. This is one of Willem's favorite. What we're doing is trying to understand what we're doing. I know it's a beautiful idea as a metaphor, but it's actually very literally what we're doing. And often it's difficult. Film is, for the good reasons, I guess, structured upon a lot of, a lot of things. So of course, when you are open, there's like, for instance, the tendernesses of certain characters that I find in Vienna. Perhaps also as a contrast, coming from a very Italian country in Argentina. In the Vienna, there's a contrast with this certain darkness, let's say. So this tenderness of people I meet, my friends in the hotel or other members of the cast, these are, subtleties that often I find are somehow eclipsed by the very noise of cinema. And I think this is something with Willem that we shared. No?
Sure, baby.
Next question.
Yeah, next question. In the films you made about Vienna, you sort of have this view of the old world as something that is in danger of being lost, or that we've lost already, or something you feel nostalgic for, which is a kind of a conservative viewpoint. But in this film, you play the character who basically wants to destroy this old hotel, which clearly you love. So there's kind of a tension built into this for me when I see the film. I'm wondering if you see that tension and why you wanted to play that character.
I didn't want,
I insisted that he take a role in the film. I like how he looks, and I wanted him to be in it as well.
Did you want to punch him in the face too?
So he can share the trouble,
No, but it's true. I mean, I often work with non-actors, so when Willem, of course, he insisted on being the only actor, which was a difficult thing to accommodate in many levels. But then, of course, when he brought this, I'm in no position to deny. I'm just gonna torture these people. But no, I will be tortured myself. But the struggles were such that I was somehow this was my least worry. And of course, one of the ways I did somehow invoked Willem to Vienna was that I promised him that I would fit him very properly, because I truly believe this is a new quote, by the way. Chantal Ackerman said that. When you're making a film, it's not really about making. What you do is you talk. You basically talk. You don't really make something, but you talk. And I like to think of my work often in terms of hospitality, something also a very present element in these Vienna films. Not only the way it was produced, but also as a subject. My psychoanalyst who passed away used to say that it is the greatest invention of culture. The idea that we can share a meal, something we take for granted. And so I'm often cooking for my colleagues. I can somehow do this in my films, not in this one. So I still owe him, Willem, a proper meal in Vienna.
We can open to questions if anybody has a question. There's one in the middle there. Oh, there first, and then over there.
Hi, congratulations on the film. I love seeing Vienna at the cinema. I was wondering, filming in Vienna, is there something unique that you only get when filming in Vienna? Or, yeah, what's your most fond memory of filming here? I guess the both of you, yeah.
Well, the first film I made in Vienna was really very spontaneous epiphany. I was invited to participate in a tribute when Hans passed away, Hans Hurk, and I chose a Lubitsch film, and during a very emotional moment I felt I had to not just come to present a film, but also to make a film that would somehow crystallize this friendship we had. And then I sort of felt very much attracted to Vienna as a Cinecittà, I like to say, because time is crystallized in a way that it's very hard to find nowadays. Even though it's beginning to change, it's very difficult in most cities, you know, whether it's the tissue, the fabric, the lights, the type, everything. So for me personally, it was always, I wanted to do more than the pandemics hit on the second shoot. So for me, yeah, it's a really very interesting city to film. And also, you know, the hotel was sort of, in the beginning, kind of a strategy, a MacGuffin, an idea to move in a certain direction, which of course I at some point let go. And it's really in the archives that I found how much this was an interesting material, because of course also the ice skating rink, which is, you know, on the very setting where the hotel is erected, there's a certain emotion I felt also when showing the film to younger people in Argentina. You know, to see these kids in the 70s, I lived this moment as a child. But even those who didn't, there is this, is it a nostalgia, is it a sadness, you know, on something being lost in the world? Also a very present element in these films, the end of an era. Yeah, so I would say there's something that came from the hotel and from Vienna, and especially in the archives, that I found it to be quite moving in the audiences.
When was that? When did you find the archival footage of the hotel? When you were already making the film?
The original ground break was something that we found in the development stage. But then in the editing, really, we went looking more and more, and we found this archaeological. I'm used to working this way. My films often between essay, fiction, documentary, often at the same time. So archive is something I really take very dear. I think it's a wonderful thing that one can access. And here in Vienna, we found extraordinary materials and very nicely treated. We even composed the sound elements from the same period that those materials were. And I think they opened the film in a, you know, of course, the Vienna and the hotel itself is an important character.
Had you shot in Vienna before in a film?
No, I haven't. I've done theater here, and I've been here for other reasons.
Do you have any comments about the city? You want to say something nice about the city or not? You want to say something nice about the city?
It's in the film. You know, we haven't done a lot of press, but people say, "Oh, you've done this film. How do you feel about Vienna?" It's in the film, you know. No, it is. I think
he doesn't like schnitzel.
There's a question over there.
Yeah, I was just. Oh, okay.
You can stand up. Okay.
I was just going to ask, because you just said you don't really have much to say about Vienna or something. I'm not sure.
Is that what I said?
It sounded like that. I just wanted to say, what do you think about Vienna? Like all the bad and all the good. Like, just like to hear that. And you too.
No, I'm being a little silly, but I don't know what to say. I mean, it was really important that Gaston had a real attachment to Vienna. Not that I didn't. I have lots of associations with Vienna. And then they were made stronger by being here, and now it's a strong memory. I watched the film today, and I thought, really, it's in the film. There are so many elements. And by the end, you know, Gaston had a love for Vienna. He wanted to shoot here. It was very specific. He had access to certain places. He collected certain people. It's really like you get this stuff together and then you rearrange it in a way that, and it's not even so much to make a story as you look at it from different angles and you put things in different order, and then you start to explore what's your attraction to the place. So in the end, you know, when I'm watching that, I'm moved. Something about the music, you know, the visit to the tailor. There's so many little things that, you know, feel very specific to Vienna. So when I'm not being flip when I say, how do I feel about Vienna? It's in the movie.
Hi, thank you for being here tonight. Mr. Dafoe, I think it's very cool that you have an alpaca farm. Would you say it's kind of like a sanctuary, and how many alpaca friends do you have there?
Right now, you can't have too many. And I have lots of other animals, but I've got 16. But I know them all. They're different personalities. And, yeah, they're my children.
Okay, next question.
I also have human children, but...
I mean, that's not as important.
So one of the locations you chose was also the old economics faculty, which also has a similar history to the Intercontinental. I don't know if you know, but it's about to get torn down. It's a shame, by the way. So was that a conscious decision to also film there?
Thank you. Well, at first it was a really interesting looking location. I was looking for also this period. But when I learned that, you know, I'm often, as I said, interested in correspondences and things that might look by chance, but like in music, you know, there are harmonics are there. And the fact that, you know, that we're talking about the eventuality of this hotel, which, by the way, I'm now in a room where it's already, you see, the tile renovation. So I think we will be remembered for those who probably hated for saving the hotel in a way. But this very university that is a full block, that it's, you know, beautiful, will be replaced by a new institution of sustainability, which is like a sort of a silly paradox. Yes, I was very much aware of this, and we haven't talked about the element of, you know, architecture, of course, in all the trilogy, but the idea of the souffleur, obvious to you, was one of these chances. When I was talking to the producer about the possibility of a prompter, and he said, "You mean a souffleur?" And I said, "What?" Because the idea of the souffleur was some kind of inspiration, the idea of the fragility, an act of faith, those who attempted, you know, what the ingredients are, but is it really going to rise? Is it going to, you know, what happens? Even if it does rise, it collapses immediately. So I like this layer of, you know, relation of making films this way and, you know, dessert going up, building eventually coming down. And then when I learned about this element of theater, it was really like, again, an epiphany, because Willem, as he describes himself as a stage animal, and he is, you know, also as an homage to theater and manipulation and things we have in common. So yeah, I work around when these things start to match.
Right in the front, right next to you.
Question. In terms of sound or soundtrack, this movie kind of felt like it's, to me, on first watch, about like a bit of disconnection or a disconnect. And it just made me think about maybe Poor Things, for example, where the soundtrack is very loud and eclectic and a bit chaotic. And here it felt very minimalist. You could really hear more like the sounds of maybe the hotel itself. And I just wanted to ask how you kind of calibrate your performance based on, or if that kind of plays a role in how you perform.
I didn't have so much to do with the music, and as we're actually shooting, we're not using the music, so it's a post thing. It's really a Gasti thing, you know. But yeah, so he can speak about it.
If that was a deliberate choice to kind of minimize the background music or any sound, and to focus on the sound of the hotel itself.
Well, I take sound very seriously, and often the way I work has more to do with how music is written than how films. That's part of my difficulty also with the screenwriting in a traditional way. And as I said, it's in the editing stage that things come together. There are very strong intuitions that are early in the process, like Ligeti. This piece was very important for me, and it was quite hard to to license in the end. But at some point, it's sort of irreplaceable. Other materials come in the process, but I am very interested in the dynamic range of, of music rather than cinema, which is often a challenge. And we work very much with direct sound, which is also very atypical. It's most of the sounds you hear are really recorded in the location. Of course, we add details, but it's really mostly a direct sound.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I have a question. Here, yes. Sorry. Yes, I love the Intercontinental Bar. I just love also the staff, and it was amazing to see it. And also the bartender, he makes amazing cocktails. How was it working with the staff of the hotel, and were they like all on board when you approached them?
Well, are you here, Franz? Yes? If you're here, stand, please. Franz, he left? He's gone?
You had to go work. Go to work.
So, yes, I mean, I love the men in the bar. They're, at this point, good friends. It was difficult, to make a film also a strange decision because of course we attempted looking for different hotels, but when a film is about a building, I just don't understand how it can be made in a different place. I understand cinema is often following this logic, but it just doesn't function for me. And I'm glad it doesn't because we found so much, of course it was hard. It's a functioning hotel. It was very strict. We could only do certain things. It was difficult to make it look or work interestingly, the sound and the space. We have a very gifted cinematographer who was also challenged by this, who shot, by the way, the whole trilogy, Rui. And, the staff themselves, they're very friendly. Some people were less friendly. Some people were silly. But we had, making films is hard enough. And, of course, far away from your home, it's harder. And, a hotel that functions, it really is a challenge. But when you see the people like Franz and the other barmen, I really find that when I was talking again about the tenderness, you see people like them in all the films I made in Vienna. And I understand when you make a film far away, it's like you're really in a minefield of cliches. But then when you reach these zones, I think cinema has this capacity when you hit in very precise, something quite, strong happens.
And also the nostalgic feeling you got, like when you enter the hotel, I think you feel it, and you feel that it was like this amazing time when it opened, and like you also incorporated those images of like how it looked and everything, and it was so modern, and you had like all these, I don't know, celebrities come, and when you enter it now, and you feel like it's kind of like,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not that I want to introduce the subject of my mother, with whom Willem had very entertaining conversations in Venice. But, of course, this hotel, I regret that it has been restored in this shishi baroque in the 80s. But at the same time, this feels very much like my mother's taste. And so somehow I feel very, embraced, and there's something I personally like about the hotel.
Somebody in the back.
Wow. Mr. Dafoe, how can we become friends and you play in my movie?
Don't try this at home. I strongly disadvise you. Talk to my mother.
Who's got the mic?
What you
now?
got? Where are you shooting? Who are you shooting with?
How much
what
money?
You got in mind?
No, I really appreciate that you, I see you play also in very young directors' movies, and you support a lot of young directors, and I want to thank you for that because it makes you very close to the audience, and thank you.
I just like, I'm selfish. I want to go where there's opportunities. I look at the whole thing and... sometimes it's risky, but, I remember famously for me, Gene Hackman, I worked with him, and he said, let me give you one piece of advice. Never work with a first-time director. I didn't take his advice. There's something about the excitement that a first-time director has and the engagement and the kind of enthusiasm, and they're at the beginning of something, so they're they have a hungry, they've got a hunger to do something, and they're not sure how they do it. So nothing's automatic. So something, they grow into it. They're transformed by the experience, and you like to be around that. You like to share that. You like to be transformed yourself. So I appreciate that you appreciate that, but it's totally selfish. It's just about having good opportunities to contribute something.
Unfortunately, after that note,
No.
we have to call it a night. Maybe you want to say something else before we leave, Gaston? It's
I
your
would
last
like
chance.
to, I don't know if I was grateful enough to my cast who exposed themselves in such generous, also like Willem. Can you please stand up, Lily? Linda, my friend, are you there? Lily, please. Klaus, are you there, Klaus? Klaus Philippe? He's gone. Klaus is gone. Oh my God. Okay, Hang Yol also, my dear friend who played the piano in all the trilogy. Very grateful to you. And to everybody who...
Here she is.
Yes, Hang Yol. Here's Lily. Lily's first thing was, we met on the pandemic when we were shooting a little lab package. My dear family of cheesemakers, the Suterlutis, their kids with their friends came by. There was a COVID party. It was a nasty affair. And Lily was there, and she was so sensitive and so really, special. And we stayed in contact with family and friends. And later on, I asked her to be in the film, and it was an intuitive. These films are made pretty much, as you know, on a certain intuition rather than a rational logic. But we were all in awe of how she immediately jumped in the film and opened herself in a way that we were all very, very struck. I often saw Willem walk back from the park very moved, and I didn't understand because I also didn't hear what they were talking. And, we were all very moved, and people who saw the film in Buenos Aires, younger people, they feel this is very much also Lily's film in that she's the one on whom this whole thing is landing. So I want to thank you in your city, Lily, for being like you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now that you have the mic, maybe you could speak to something about what it was like to make the film with Gaston, just what your feelings are after having seen it.
It was good. It was a roller coaster, really. In the first 2 days or so, it was quite difficult for me because I had to get used to it. And we shooted one of the most challenging scenes right in the beginning, so that was, okay. But it got easier very fast, and it was such a magical experience for me, and I'm very grateful for it, and I'm very thankful. Thank you.
The first 2 days were extremely difficult. The very first, you have to acknowledge this is not a film that is, being constructed and there will be a film. You really don't know what's going on a lot of the time. And after the second day, Willem had insisted that it didn't need a script, that, I work a different way. But then, he turned into a different creature, and he expected, of course, as an actor would expect certain things that I could not offer. And I remember him, almost before I was considering jumping through the window, that he said, Gasti, you cannot expect us to pull a rabbit out of a hat every day. And I was like, what do you think we're doing? What is it, our work? And at some point, I think it's interesting, after the second day, somehow things accommodated. And as Willem said, he liked when he saw around, he didn't quite understand what was going on, but when he saw around, he liked the people he saw. And somehow, I felt like I was going through this very under a spell, and somehow the material was coming by. Very short period of shooting, by the way. But yeah, I want to thank you, all of you, very much. Also, Mark, for your questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for staying.
Thank you for staying.
The film shows again.
Yes.
Please see the film again, second time. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.